I never meant to stay that late. I'd only gone to the mall to return a jacket and maybe grab something quick to eat. It was a Tuesday night, quiet, cold, and raining. I figured the place would be mostly empty, which suited me just fine. I hate crowds. I returned the jacket without a hitch and stopped in a mall sneaker store near the end of the second floor. The guy working there was clearly bored out of his mind, but polite enough. We chatted for a bit while I tried on shoes. I didn't realize how much time had passed. I glanced at my watch, 8:57 p.m. Damn, I didn't realize it was that late. The employee nodded, glancing at the clock behind the register. Yeah, we close at 9. You're good though. Take your time. I hurried, picked a pair, paid, thanked them, and left. The moment I stepped out of the store, I felt it. Silence. Not the usual soft, end-of-day lull. Not quiet. Dead silence. No music, no echo of heels clicking against the tile. No hum of conversation. The overhead lights were still on. The half of them had dimmed into that unsettling, flickering state. The kind of lighting that makes shadows look wrong. Too long, too alive. I walked briskly toward the main exit, passing by shuttered stores, metal grills pulled down like teeth. I reached the sliding doors at the north entrance. Locked. I frowned and tried another door beside it, also locked. I jiggled the handle, looked for a push bar. Nothing budged. That's when I noticed the time again. 9:14 p.m. Okay, I thought. No big deal. I'll just find someone. A janitor, the guard, anyone. I circled back toward the center of the mall, the empty food court looming ahead. Every neon sign was dark except for a lone orange Panda Express flickering weakly. The silence was doing something to me, making my heartbeat feel too loud. Every step I took echoed like a slap, like someone was mimicking me just a second behind. I paused and listened. Nothing, but it felt like something was there, watching, waiting. I tried calling the mall security line, straight to voicemail. Then the customer service number, same thing. My phone battery was low, 12%, because of course I hadn't charged it all day. I tried Instagram DMs, Twitter, even left a 1-star review on Google Maps with the comment, "Help, I'm locked inside." It was stupid, but I didn't know what else to do. I figured maybe the parking garage would be open, or at least had a stairwell that led out. I headed toward the far end of the mall. It took longer than I had expected. Walking alone in a mall is different than when it's full of people. The ceilings feel higher, the halls feel longer. There's no sense of scale anymore, just you and empty space. Halfway there, a soft clang rang out from somewhere above me. I froze. It sounded like metal on metal, maybe a door, maybe a dropped tool. "Hello?" I called, voice cracking like I hadn't spoken in days. No response. I told myself it was a janitor. Nothing weird, someone up in the maintenance walkways or the HVAC area. I kept walking. I passed the service hallway. The light inside was flickering badly, buzzing, blinking, then steady again. I paused. Something was wrong. The floor was wet. A long, smeared footprint led to the hallway out into the mall tiles, then vanished. Not a shoe print, a bare foot. Too small to be an adult, too large to be a child. I stepped closer. Another clang echoed, this time from deeper inside the hallway. I turned and walked quickly to the opposite direction. I found the security office about 10 minutes later. The door was locked, the window dark. I knocked and waited. Nothing. I pounded. Still nothing. I tried yelling, cursing, pleading. Silence. Then there was a sound. Footsteps. Not mine. Soft, deliberate. From the second floor above the atrium, I looked up over the glass railing. There was someone there. A shape, silhouetted against the flickering ceiling light. Not moving, just watching. "Hey!" I shouted. They turned, then bolted. I didn't even think. I ran, full sprint up the nearest escalator, which wasn't moving. 2 steps at a time, burning lungs, slippery grip on the rail. When I got to the top, no one was there. I scanned left, then right. Nothing. But there, on the floor, another set of those smeared footprints, leading away, fading fast. I didn't follow. I found a small clothing store still dimly lit, ducked inside, and sat behind the counter. I didn't know how long I stayed there. Maybe an hour, maybe more. I thought eventually died. 1%, 0%, black. I was totally alone. The silence was worse than anything, until I heard it again. A door opening, somewhere deep in the mall, a long creak, a pause, then click of it shutting. And then, the sound of something dragging. Not walking, dragging. Something heavy, metallic, scraping against the tile in short bursts. Closer, I couldn't breathe. I pressed myself into the space beneath the counter, heart hammering in my throat. My mouth was dry. I felt like I might vomit. Then I heard the glass doors to this store open. A slow, shuffling step, and that dragging again. I closed my eyes. The steps circled a register. I could hear them just feet from me. A breath, raspy, wet, right above me. Then silence. No more steps, no more dragging, just silence. I stayed there until I saw daylight creeping through the far end skylight. At 6:43 a.m., I heard the soft mechanical noise of the main gate lifting. Mall staff. A group of early workers coming in through the delivery entrance. I staggered out, pale and shaking, looking like I hadn't slept in days. Security tried to question me, but I just kept repeating the same thing. You locked me in. They asked what I saw. I told them there was someone else in there. They said the cameras had gone offline overnight for maintenance. I told them about the footsteps, the dragging sound. They said no one else was reported inside. No logs, no keys missing, no incidents. One guard, an older guy, said something weird though, quietly after the others had walked away. This isn't the first time. Not really. I asked him what he meant. He just shook his head. Just don't come back here after dark. I haven't, and I won't. Whatever I saw, or I heard, or imagined, it's still in there, and it knows what fear smells like. I should have listened to the alert. The tornado watch came through just after noon. Thunder cracked across the sky like a whip. The wind started throwing tree limbs around like they weighed nothing. I just needed one thing, in and out, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, tops. The mall was only a few minutes away. I figured if it got worse, I'd already be home before anything hit. I was wrong. The drive was tense, wipers barely keeping up with the rain, flashes of lightning strobing the sky light every few seconds. The storm was brewing fast, but I made it. That's when I noticed that something was off. The parking lot was empty, totally and completely empty. I slowed down, wondering if it was closed, but the lights inside were on, the main entrance doors still glowing behind sheets of rain. No sign, no barrier, so I parked up front and jogged through the downpour, hoodie pulled tight over my head. The automatic door slid open, and there was no one. The security guard at the front desk, gone. No shoppers, no background music, just the hollow sound of my footsteps echoing down the tiled corridor. I hesitated, checked the time, checked my phone. No missed calls, no new alerts. I even called out, "Hello?" Nothing but the soft, distant hum of the building's ventilation system. It felt like I had broken into somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. The lights were still on in most of the stores. Displays untouched. Gates wide open. It didn't look abandoned, more like it had been evacuated, quickly. I kept walking, trying to tell myself it was fine. Maybe the weather scared people off. Maybe they were just smarter than me and stayed home. But every step deeper into the mall made the silence more deafening. Even the food court was deserted. A tray of half-eaten fries still sat on the table, one slowly sliding to the edge as if someone had just left it there. It hit me then. This wasn't a lack of people. This was everyone gone. I sat down for a second at one of the empty tables, trying to think. The air outside was thicker now, the wind screaming louder with every gust. My phone buzzed in my hand. Tornado warning. Immediate danger. Seek shelter. I stared at the alert, heart pounding. Was I supposed to shelter here? Was there a basement? Where was everyone? I got up and started looking for signs. Emergency exits, stairwells, anything. I figured maybe they had a designated shelter area, someplace safe. I passed a few locked doors with authorized personnel only signs, but nothing open, nothing obvious. At one point, I tried going back out, but the wind was slamming against the glass so hard the doors barely budged. The rain outside was moving sideways now, and the sky had turned a sickly green. I turned around, standing in the middle of the cavernous mall, suddenly aware of just how big it was when it's empty. Every sound I made came back to me a second later. I checked behind store counters, looked into the dark service corridors behind the coffee shop. I even banged on a few doors. Nothing. The weirdest part was how normal everything looked. Like life had just paused, mid-scene. Someone's half-finished latte still sat on a bench. A shopping bag had tipped over in the breeze coming through the cracked skylight. And then I heard it, a faint siren muffled by the thick walls, followed by a loudspeaker announcement from outside. "This is a tornado emergency. Seek shelter immediately." I stood there, pulse in my throat, realizing that everyone must have gotten the message earlier. Maybe they were told to leave. Maybe someone went around and cleared the place out, and somehow they missed me. I was the only one, and the storm was almost here. I've always hated working closing shifts during the holidays. The mall becomes something else in December, a beast fed by overstimulation and desperation. The crowds are relentless, shoving through snow-crusted doors, hell-bent on buying plastic joy for people they probably don't even like. The speakers blast Christmas songs on a 5-track loop, each note wearing on their sanity like a drip of concrete. And the lights, so many lights, make it feel like you're trapped in some technicolor nightmare. But I needed the hours. Rent was past due, and the holiday bonus kept me barely above water. So I clocked in at 2 p.m., greeted my manager with a nod, and settled into my kiosk's usual mix of boredom and passive-aggressive shoppers. We sell personalized Christmas ornaments. Baby's first Christmas, our first pandemic together, world's best dog mom, the kind of crap people panic buy when they can't think of anything meaningful. I was at the end of my rope by the time 9 p.m. rolled around. Most of the other employees had already started closing up shop. The security guards were doing their final sweeps. I caught sight of Ben, big guy, bold, always joking about retiring to Vegas, walking toward the loading docks with a flashlight and his ever-present furnace. He raised it in salute when he passed me. I was alone at that point. My coworkers had left early, saying they couldn't risk getting stuck in the storm that was supposed to hit hard overnight. The snow had been falling all day in soft, lazy flakes, but the forecast said it would pick up in a big way after dark. By 9:30, the place was almost empty. The last customers had shuffled out, bundled in layers and red-faced from the cold. I watched them through the glass as the door slid shut and locked. Outside, the snow had turned into a white curtain, falling fast and thick. I shivered. The warmth from the crowd disappeared fast, and so did the comfort. The mall without people isn't peaceful. It's unsettling, like a carcass after a feeding frenzy. The overhead lights dimmed to half power, and the jingles stopped, replaced by some generic instrumental jazz. Just me, the buzz of the fluorescents, and the occasional distant echo. I went into the stock room to grab the inventory sheets. Just 10 minutes, I told myself. Quick count, lock up, and I'm out. The back room is small. No windows, cement walls, and rows of shelves that stacked glitter, hooks, and ornaments that shed red and green plastic everywhere. It was dead silent in there. I scribbled down numbers, listening to the distant hum of the ventilation system. Time stretched. When I finally came out, something felt off. It was like the mall had shifted while I was gone, and the air was colder, stiller, the shadows longer, and then I saw him. Across the concourse, near the Santa set, was a man, just standing there, still as stone. He wore a dark jacket with the hood pulled up, his hands in his pockets. The lights above him flickered once, just enough to make me question what I was seeing. I blinked. He was gone. I scanned the corridor. Nothing. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Probably security, I told myself. Ben, maybe. Or one of the night crew for maintenance. But my gut didn't buy it. I pulled up my phone. 2 missed notifications. One was a local news alert. Winter storm warning. Severe conditions. Whiteout possible. Avoid travel. The other stopped my heart cold. Breaking. Police warn public to stay alert. Holiday butcher still at large. Suspect believed to be hiding in the metro area. Do not approach. My fingers tightened around the phone. The holiday butcher had been in the headlines for weeks now. 3 mall employees murdered in as many weeks, each at different shopping centers. Always after closing, always in a snowstorm. It can't be, I thought. He wouldn't be here. Not tonight. Not in this mall. But every instinct screamed that I was wrong. I zipped up my hoodie and started walking. Fast. I headed toward the security office, tucked behind the West Wing entrance, near a shuttered JCPenney. As I walked past the massage chairs, I noticed something weird. One of them was still running, reclining, vibrating, but nobody was in it. I stopped. The thing hummed like it had just been used. Still warm, I bet. My pace quickened. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not echoing, not from overhead. Close, heavy, deliberate. I ducked into the candle shop and crouched low behind a shelf of peppermint-scented candles. My breath fogged glass as I tried to stay quiet. The footsteps came closer. I could hear them now. Boots on tile, measured, slow. And then they stopped. I dared a glance over the edge of the shelf. There he was. Not Ben, not maintenance. A tall man in a dark hood, standing maybe 20 feet away. He was holding something in his right hand. It was a knife. Not a box cutter, a full-sized hunting knife, shiny, curved, and clean. I stayed frozen. Every hair on my neck had stood up. He didn't look around, didn't shout. He just stood there for a long moment. Then, just as silently, he turned and walked away. I stayed crouched for another 10 minutes, maybe longer. My legs cramped, my lungs burned from shallow breathing. When I finally moved, I bolted for the stairwell. The security office could wait. I needed out. I needed to be somewhere he couldn't get me. The stairwell was freezing. The snow had forced its way through the cracked window, piling up along the ledge. I took the steps 2 at a time, heading for the roof. I didn't care about any alarms. I just needed to be up high. Visible. Maybe get a phone signal. Halfway up, the door below creaked. I stopped. I turned, and I listened. Footsteps again. He was coming. I didn't think. I ran. I slammed through the roof door and kicked it shut behind me. I found an old metal broom and jammed it through the handle. The wind hit me like a truck, snow slicing sideways, stinging my skin through the hoodie. I dropped to my knees, hands shaking, and pulled out my phone. 2 bars, barely. I called 911. It took a few tries to get through. The dispatcher's voice crackled, distorted by the wind in my ears. "There's someone in the mall," I shouted. "He has the knife, I think. I think it's the guy from the news. Please, please, send someone." They said units were on their way, but the snow had made the roads nearly impossible. ETA unknown. I crawled to the edge of the roof and looked down through the glass skylight. Below me, the wall looked like a stage set after the play was over. Lights dimmed, decorations swaying, but there he was, the man in the hood, moving from store to store, methodical, patient, like a wolf sniffing at her trail. He was hunting, and I was the only one left to find. I stayed on the roof for hours. My hands were numb, my lips cracked. I curled into myself, hiding behind a rooftop vent, watching the snow bury them all inch by inch. Finally, just before dawn, I saw the flashing lights. Red, blue, and white Salvation. They breached them all with SWAT gear and rifles drawn. They found him still inside, still looking, and still calm. He didn't fight, he didn't speak, he just smiled. They found zip ties, duct tape, and gloves in his bag, and a list. There were 4 names on it. 3 had already been on the news. The 4th was mine. How he knew my name, I have no idea. I don't think I want to know. I never worked another closing shift after that. Never even set foot in the mall again. Now, every year, when December rolls around and the lights go up, I remember what it felt like on that roof. The wind screaming, the snow falling, and a killer's footsteps echoing just below me.